rays from outer space get through the ozone, that can affect the growth of man. That can make man slowly die off. It can make man slowly lose his hair.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's, and then it's real easy to get off onto another subject this way.
Well, going even to yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, as I was saying, even the Germans during the 30s, right? They spent a lot of their nation's money, right, sending out scientists all over the world looking for things in the paranormal. And
they spent a lot of time looking for UFOs.
Yeah, and anything paranormal. I mean, they
also spent a lot of time looking for the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh yeah, which I honestly think that has been found. I read where actually some benign church actually has it and has had it, and it's not the Catholic Church. Supposedly in Africa, the last I read about it, and yeah, they've had it for a long time.
Well, for whatever reason, Hitler was fantasized with that, and like you say, a lot of other unexplained things.
Oh yeah, but it's been reported too that in the 30s they actually found remains of giants. So I mean, again, it goes back. It's just been too many cases of it being found everywhere, all over. I mean,
all
in
over.
United,
not in a concentrated area.
No, I mean everywhere from United States to, Mount Everest to you name it. The Amazon, everywhere. I mean, and it's just been too many things found, and it seems that our technology has been improving. They've been actually able to find more remains and artifacts now
because they can analyze it.
Well, not just that, they can actually find it with like ground radar, satellites, you name it. They're able to find these type of things.
Are you talking about mapping the stuff or mapping like certain areas, like the ground and
they can find
waters.
They got things where they can find bodies buried now. They just walk over it with a little ground radar type of thing, and it detects it. So they have actually found even a lot of remains of skeletons that way, and that's actually how they've been even finding some of these skeletons like giants and stuff. It's so, I'm frustrated because I talk to other people about giants and they say they never existed. Well, then if you tell me that giants never existed, then don't tell me about UFOs or Bigfoot. Don't tell me about, I mean, it's more proof about giants than there is 3/4 of the stuff. I mean, if somebody told me that there was a ghost in their house, I would believe the giant more than I would believe them about talking about a ghost. Sorry, ghost people, but it's true. I do believe there is spirits, but it's so much more proof, physical proof. I mean, why would a man, and it's not just one place that's been found, artifacts, okay? We're talking about 10 feet long, 12 feet long.
There's actual pictures, not like,
Yeah, but I mean, they actually have the artifact, right? Why would somebody back in the biblical times or in the Egyptian times or the Greek times or any of that make weapons and artifacts that a human being couldn't even pick up? I mean, I could see maybe somebody doing it, but not in all these different reported places. And so there's so many artifacts and so many skeleton remains and so many talks like the American natives talking about giants. Then you go into, China. You go into all these places and they talk about it.
And look at all over the world where there are these drawings etched into the face of the earth, drawings of giants.
Yeah.
Well, there is this one theory. It's very dim. But what if the giants were the ones that helped lifted the stones in like Britain? The big religious stones that are like.
Well, yeah, just like we talk about Stonehenge. And a lot of the other ancient. There are talks of pieces of stone that have been erected that to this day we don't have cranes big enough to lift these pieces of stone.
because they're so heavy. They're 100,
Yeah, and you
Exactly.
over 100 tons.
You're going to tell me that 1,000 slaves could move something like that?
or horses
No,
or any of that.
but again, if there were people walking around that were 15, 18, 20 foot tall, then I guess, it
'Cause
wouldn't
it's
take
all-
that many of them.
And there were,
You got 10 of them together.
yeah, and they
It'd be-
were
it'd be
all
amazing.
over.
Because let's face it, if we're talking superhuman size, we're probably talking superhuman strength.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll put it this way.
I mean, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But, that's what I just find so, it's just so much proof of giants did exist, and so much, like, again, like I was talking about at the start, they were supposedly, if you read the Bible and you go and read some of the other scriptures, not scriptures, but some of the other stories that have been told family from family, they at the start they kind of were close to humans. And they were friendly with humans and traded with humans, and then eventually it started going to where they were trying to kill each other off, and then
Look at the white man and the North American Native American.
yeah,
For the most part, when we first arrived, I'm sure there were some of them that didn't care for us, but we were, we're taught in history about the first Thanksgiving,
yeah,
where the Indians showed us how to plow the land and harvest, and survive off the land. And then pretty soon here we are taking over their country. It's the same premise, same principle. And it was greed.
oh yeah, we wanted their land, right?
Yes, we wanted, and we wanted vast expansions of land. There's more than enough land here for us to have been just fine and dandy without doing a lot of the things we did.
Oh yeah, and then as the people would come, going west, right? You got the people that just wanted to kill the buffalo, not to eat like the Indians wanted to. That was their food. They not even wanted the hide; they just wanted the sport to kill it.
Well, yeah, but the hides were worth money.
Yeah,
the hides. The big thing was the furs and the trading. That was the big thing. And it was greed.
Greed was there.
Greed. So, and you talk about the Bible and giants in the Bible. Let's face it, whether you believe in God and heaven and hell and all of that, the Bible is a history book.
It is.
There is massive truth in the Bible.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you sit there and say, "Hey, giants didn't exist," then you're saying that the Bible, some of the Bible's nothing but lies.
And I believe that the Bible is a history book.
Yeah.
It's been interpreted different ways. It's been, there's different versions of it, this and that. But when you get down to the brass tacks of it, it's a history book.
Oh yeah. Well, I read too recently. I guess like in the late 50s, they ran across some live giants in South America, and the first thing the military did was to eliminate them and get rid of the remains. They didn't want anybody to know. Yeah. So.
Well, there was and I want to say it was in Russia, but it may not have been. It may be somewhere else. But it was one of the videos I watched when I was doing some of the research for this, and there was, like 20 or 30 people who actually saw these giants. And this isn't the 20th century. We're talking in the late 70s, early 80s. This happened, and they interviewed some of these folks 20 years later, and they're telling the same story.
Yeah.
One of them was a kid when this happened, and they show him as a young man telling the same story.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was people. There were young children. There were middle-aged people. There were old people. There was all kinds of different people, and they all told the same story.
Yeah, and it just makes you wonder, totally. I mean, what actually caused them to go extinct? But then you look at, I guess, maybe the greed, with man. I guess, if you're not another human being, they're going to look at you. I don't know. I guess man have always wanted to be superior.
Man has it's a superiority complex, but it's also survival of the fittest. If
right.
Man is going to do whatever he has to do to survive. So if there's this race of giants that you're competing with for food, do you just lay over and die off, or do you fight?
Yeah, well,
And,
I guess a lot of them. I would, if I put myself back in any of those times, right, and there were giants, and the food supply was not there to support both. Okay, I guess I would say, okay, well, we need to go and do something, and we need to look at for food for us, for my family, your family. So we're going to go and go kill the giants, and then
and let's face it, right now this planet is on the verge of disaster when it comes to our food chain.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't take much, actually.
Wouldn't take much at all. I mean, just the whole issue with the honeybees.
Yeah,
that scares me.
Oh yeah, I mean that's again, it seems like government kind of covers that up too, and that's a whole new subject right there. I guess the government just recently gave somebody permission to go and use an insecticide that to kill off, I guess, some bees in the area. And right now, there's a big shortage of bees. When I first moved where I'm at right now, I would see honeybees during the summertime. They'd be flying around. The last couple of years, even where I'm at, I don't see the bees like I used to. I don't even see.
And we're not talking wasps, and we're talking about pollinating bees.
Right.
Bees that make our planet grow.
Yeah.
Make our food grow.
Yeah.
Okay. We're already trying to mass produce beef, chicken, pork, as fast as we can.
Well,
with hormones and all this other stuff, and that's taken its toll on us as well.
There was a show called something Green, Silent Green. You remember? Have you ever seen that?
No, I have not.
Okay, with Houston, whatever his name was, that famous movie star, who was president of the ARA or whatever that was for a while.
Charlton Heston.
Yeah, Charlton Heston. Okay, he was in that movie. And basically what happened is society, right, there was a holocaust of a nuclear war. And they rebounded, but the problem is there wasn't enough food to supply, the human race. And stuff like, like jam, like strawberries and blackberries and fruits, they were almost impossible. Only the very, very rich people could afford a spoonful of jam. That's in the movie, right? But it got to the point that, they when a human they would live to a certain age, right? And they would encourage the people to go into this fancy place, right? And they would give them a fantastic sending off while they're still alive, right? And they would give them like an hour in this room, right, with music and pictures how Earth in movies, like how Earth was, in our time. And as soon as they die, right, the people didn't know where their food supply was coming, okay, because there was hardly any cattle left or anything. They were non-exempt, didn't exist. Do you know where the food supply came from? When you decided you didn't want to live any longer, or if they decided you didn't want to live any longer.
They decided that they didn't want you to live any longer.
No, what they did is they took your body, right? And the way they would do it is to preserve your body as you're dying. So they would turn around, take your a body to a packing house, right? And they would make this stuff. It's called Silent Green. And people were going crazy because they were like a rationing. You had to stand in line for hours while the military would give you your little rationing of Silent Green. They didn't realize it. They were eating human.
Imagine that.
Okay.
Well, let's face it. Okay, if there is a nuclear war, the hardest part's going to be to survive it.
Oh yeah, afterwards.
Then if you do survive it, what the hell are you going to eat?
I know, because the nuclear winter and fallout, like all the fallout.
Well, it's going to wipe everything out, and nothing's going to grow. Exactly. You get a nuclear winter.
I've read.
It's no different. It's no different than when the dinosaurs were wiped out, and the atmosphere was full of dirt, and it blocked the sun out.
I've read a post. I think it's like New York Times or something like that, but it said something about all the fallout shelters in New York, and